Welcome to Central Online. My name is Joshua and I'm one of the worship leaders here. Before we get started on today's experience, I want to tell you about Central Live's live album recording happening on Friday, September 8th at 7 p.m. You can go to central.live for tickets and more information, but for now, enjoy Central Online.
Here we go. highest goal. Let's sing it out again this week, come on. God, I love you with my heart. You're the rhythm that sustains, beating life through my veins. God, I love you with my soul. This life I live, I don't own. You are mine and I am yours. Let love be the highest goal in this life. Come on, to love you, God, with all my heart, and love others as you first loved us. Yeah. God, I love you with my strength. Even when I am weak, you're the power inside of me. God, I love you with my mind. You're the overwhelming peace to calm my fears and worries. Let love be the highest goal in this life. To love you, God, with all my heart, and love others as you first loved us. Come on, hands up. Let's sing this out together, that love is patient and love is kind. Come on. Love is patient, love is kind, unlimited, all the time. Only your love can break through. Help me love just like you do. Again. Love is patient, love is kind, unlimited, all the time. Only your love can break through. Help me love just like you do. So let love be the highest goal in this life. To love you, God, with all my heart, and love others as you first loved us. Sing it out. So let love be the highest goal in this life. To love you, God, with all my heart, and love others as you first loved. So let love be the highest goal, yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for starting your week with us right here at Central Online. My name is Drew Bodine, and I serve as one of the pastors here. If this is your first time at Central, I want you to know this is a place where it's okay to not be okay. That means that you can come as you are, you belong, and we are so glad that you're here. Our experience online today is just about an hour long, and right after, we would love if you went to centralonline.tv/welcome. There's a short form to fill out there, and when you do, we have a free gift that we want to send you in the mail this week. But for now, get ready to experience the rest of Central Online. don't make comments like that.
No, I'm.
That just reminds me of all the work that we have to do. We are 3 weeks away from capturing this album, and this week we're at Palms Studio inside of the Palms Hotel and Resort. I even think too the way I'd sing it, like make the second one sound different than the third and the first, just to kind of, I don't know, glue it together a little bit better from a melody standpoint.
For pre-production in the studio right now, it's really just about arrangements of the songs, more so on a dynamic musical basis.
There's a lot of pressure just because there's so much time spent in these songs, so much emotional investment.
When we write, we're not just writing for somebody who knows God and has a deep understanding and relationship with Him. We write thinking of someone who is far from God or has no God in their life. We want them to come to know God through these songs.
What's unique about it is that we're planning what we want a record to sound like from, top to bottom. What's the first song, what's the last song? But in addition to that, this album is a live recording, so we're also planning for how do we execute this in a live environment? How are we taking someone that attends this concert from point A to point B?
Can we do a almost just break for a second? Oh, yeah, kind of just. That's cool. Just drop it for a second.
Heck yeah, so good. It is.
One more time. We've really pushed hard to write these songs to be the best songs that we've ever had. I hope people feel that way too, but no doubt we have really stretched ourselves.
This is the first record that will all be Central original songs. And I think just the place that our church is at, the place that our team is at, our health, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, we're just in a really good place as a team and as a culture. And we just really believe that this record is not just going to impact Central as a church, but it's going to impact the capital C church around the world. And we're really believing that this record is going to impact those far from God as well.
There from the beginning, set the land upon the sea, shined a light into the darkness, created every living thing. Who can knit us all together into a perfect masterpiece? Breathe a breath inside my lungs and give my heart a steady beat. The sun by morning paints the colors in the sky, brings the moon out in the evening to accompany the night. Who will walk me through the valley like a shadow by my side? In times of trouble be my refuge and drive the darkness out with light. I lift my eyes up to the mountains. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. I lift my eyes up to the mountains. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven cross, climb a hill and die for me, engrave my name into his hands. Come on, only Jesus Christ my King. Psalm 133 says, I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? It comes from the maker and creator of the heavens and earth. I believe that God has our problems, he has our hopes and our dreams in control of his hands. He has a future and a plan for each and every one of us. It just takes faith and trust in him. In fact, Hebrews 11:1 says that faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things that we cannot see. And even though we may not be able to see God, we know that he doesn't just look at the mess in our lives, he's in the mess with us, and he'll see it through to completion if we can trust in him. We've come to a time in our experience where we have the opportunity to put our hope and our trust in Jesus by giving back of our tithes and our offerings. And I want you to know that every dollar you give here helps to go rescue people, not just here in Henderson, but all over the city of Las Vegas, all over the world. God is changing lives through the mission of Central, of introducing people to Jesus and helping them follow him. And we can't thank you enough for those of you who are generosity rock stars. And for those of you who aren't, I want to encourage you to get in the game, to join us. I believe when all of us pull on the same rope together, we can see more and more lives changed all over the world. A generosity rock star is someone who gives a minimum of $20 a week reoccurring online. It's really simple to set up. There's a card in the seat back in front of you, or you can go to our website, centralonline.tv. But I want to encourage you to take that step of faith, to put your trust in Jesus in this area of your life. Before we give, I want to take a moment and pray. And I know that there's probably some of you here today who are in need of God's help. Maybe you need him to move a mountain in your life. And maybe that's a marriage issue or a work-related issue or a sickness. I don't know what it is for you, but if you need prayer, would you just boldly slip your hand up in the air right where you're at? Hands are going up all over the room. And church, if you're next to somebody who has their hand raised, would you just hold your hand out towards an individual near you, and let's just pray on behalf of them, ask God to move and work in their circumstances. God, we thank you so much for each and every person in this room. And I thank you for those of us who are bold to slip our hands in the air right now and say that we need your help. God, I just pray that you would intervene with whatever we're going through. God, that you would just help us to put our trust and our hope in you. God, that we would know that this too shall pass because you're in control. So God, we release our problems into your hands because we know that you are the maker and creator, sustainer of all the universe, and that there's nothing too powerful, God, for you to overcome. So I pray that you would overcome in our situations. Help us see this through to completion as we put our trust in you. And as we give these gifts right now, God, I pray that you would use them to change more lives all over our city and around the world. For it's in your name we pray. And everybody said, amen. If you didn't come prepared to give today, I want you to know the best and easiest way to give is by going to centralonline.tv. And if you're a guest with us, we don't want you to feel any pressure or obligation to give, but as our ushers pass the trays, we're gonna just sing this very simple but powerful truth. In fact, the other night I woke up, it was about 3 a.m. And God just put these lyrics on my heart again, just reminded me in my own struggles that he's with me through the night, that I don't have to worry about things to come because I know that he's in control. He's the guardian of my life. Let's sing this together.
Guardian of my life, defender through the night, the maker of everything, come on, is watching over me. Sing that out. The guardian, yeah, the defender through the night, the maker of everything, is watching over me. Sing it again. The guardian of my life, defender through the night, the maker of everything is watching. The guardian of my life, defender through the night, maker of everything is watching. Come on. And I lift my eyes. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven. And I lift my eyes. My help comes, the maker of heaven and earth. Yeah.
Amen. You can be seated.
Nice to see you guys. Hope you're doing well. Great to have all of you guys here with us today, and want to say a huge shout out, as always, to our different locations. So glad that you're here with us, including those who are joining us at God Behind Bars and different prison facilities around the country, those watching online. Thank you for being with us today. You know, I was thinking today about this hike that I did years ago, right after college. It was one of those sort of moments for me after college where it was kind of a transitional moment, and I had the opportunity with a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, to hike the Appalachian Trail through the Smoky Mountains. So it was a big deal, and we went on this whole, it was like a 10-day trek together. We'd cover like 15, 20 miles a day. I mean, long journeys. And it was interesting because as I was thinking about it, I could handle the distance. I was good with the pace. I could do 15 or 20 miles a day. A lot of it uphill, especially the first 3/4 of the hike. That was no problem. But what eventually got me in trouble wasn't the pace. It wasn't how many miles we covered in a given day. It was the weight. The weight eventually got to me. In fact, I've got a pack up here with me. This is just a heavy pack. This is not unlike the pack that I carried all those years ago. And when I carried that pack, it weighed about 70 pounds. See if I can get this up on my shoulder. I remember I put that thing on, and here we go. We're doing this hike. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And I never really practiced with the pack. Hello. So the whole journey, I'm just banging along with this thing, 70 pounds on my back, 15, 20 miles a day, uphill, no problem. But when we started going downhill, you'd think downhill would be easy, right? Downhill became the problem. It's all that weight going down on your knees. And I almost made it to the end of the entire journey through the Smoky Mountains. And then towards the end, I blew my left knee out. Just not good. And so, to this day, it's still not right. And I think about life. I think, a lot of us in life, we have a lot going on. We're running at a fast pace. But I think the issue with many of us isn't so much the pace that we're running at. Maybe part of the challenge is the weight that we're carrying at the pace that we're running at. It's the weight. When you think about who God ultimately desires for you to be, if you're here today and you're a believer, as you read through the Bible, you see that we're supposed to exemplify more and more of what the Bible calls the fruit of God's Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. And we all want that. I think the challenge is we often look at our lives and we see a lot of things happening except that. Sometimes we lose our cool. We start blowing up at people that are closest to us. We find that we begin to self-sabotage again and again and again. As soon as we're right close to a breakthrough or close to a career advancement, we'll do something that will undermine the possibility of that breakthrough. As soon as, people around us start to grow closer to us and maybe we're finding love for the very first time, we start to act out in some old patterns and we begin to push away the people that we love the most that are right there closest to us. And it's not just that we're busy in life, it's that we're carrying so much weight. So I want to talk to you today about how I believe we can be changed by God to become more like the people He desires for us to be, filled with more patience, kindness, love, gentleness, self-control, and that the way to experience that is to deal with some of the weight that many of us are carrying. Check this out, Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. That's where we're going to be today. Let's bring it up on the screens. When we get to the red word, I'm going to ask you to read it out loud with me. Matthew 11, 28. Then Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are" what? "Weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." He's saying, look, if you have a heavy burden, if you have a heavy weight right now, come to me and I will give you rest. I don't know if you have a heavy weight. I don't know if you have a heavy burden. But if you do, I can promise you, you don't have to carry it very long before it starts messing you up. I'm feeling messed up right now. In fact, I'm going to get rid of this thing. Because you carry a heavy weight. You hear that? That's some weight. You carry a heavy weight, it starts to mess you up over time. Jesus says, look, you can trade some of that weight for what I give you and for what I want to give you, and ultimately you will find rest for your souls. So one of the first things that we can do to be changed today by the goodness and the grace of God, like that early church community, is simply this. You could trade your weariness for God's rest. Trade your weariness for God's rest. Now, I love kids, and one of the things I love about kids is how they can sleep. In fact, check out this kid right here. He's just playing along, she's playing along, and then all of a sudden, man, just boom, like standing up, I'm out right there, I just take a nap right here. Awesome, right? Or this kid in IKEA, a lot of shopping's going on, and then she's done. That's how I feel when I go shopping. Or this one was one of my favorites. Check this guy out. Just fall asleep in the shoe. It's awesome because kids can sleep anywhere, man. They get tired, they get worn out, boom, they're out, they go to sleep, and they're resting. The challenge is a kid that doesn't get enough sleep, right? And when they haven't had sleep at all, what happens? They start bouncing off the walls, they get all hyperactive, and you think, man, that kid needs to sleep. And I think sometimes in our lives, we can get to a place where we need that kind of rest, but we have a lot going on, we're running at a fast pace, we're carrying a heavy weight, and we just start emotionally kind of bouncing off the walls. And we're weary and we're tired, but we don't know where to find the rest. We know we're exhausted and we're worn out, but we're not sure how to be renewed and restored, right? We know we need the rest more than a nap, but we don't know how to get the rest. And Jesus says, look, come to me, all of you who are weary. If that's you today, if you're weary, if you're tired, school started, you got laundry, you got dishes, you got homework with kids, or maybe you're a student, you got homework just in your own life. Some of you are working and going to school. You're navigating that. Some of you are working, going to school, and managing family drama. You're exhausted, you're worn out. Maybe you're not in school, maybe you're at a place in your life where you've moved into retirement. Every person I know who's retired says, I'm busier now than I was when I worked. This is not encouraging to those of us who are working. It's like, you gotta be kidding me, man. It just gets busier from here. How can that even be possible, right? And so maybe you have a lot coming at you and you're weary and you're worn out. Jesus says, I wanna give you rest. Now, he's talking to a group of people who in the ancient world were caught up with guilt and condemnation and shame. This is a group of people that literally the religious leaders had the moral commands of God, and then they put so many other commands on the people around the moral commands of God, so many extra laws and extra responsibilities about the Sabbath and what you could do and what you couldn't do, and about how you manage this situation, how you manage that situation, all these other religious laws and principles that Jesus is talking to a group of people who just feel like fundamentally they're tired, they're worn out in their relationship with God. They can't they can't reach that high of a pinnacle. And so they walk around feeling like God's always disappointed with them. They walk around feeling that guilt that's always weighing them down. And then here's this religious teacher. He's called a rabbi. He's getting a reputation for himself. And he shows up on the scene and he says, look, come to me and I'll give you one more thing to do. No, wait. He says, come to me and I'll give you one more burden to carry. No, what does he say? Come to me and I will give you what? Rest. Whoa, rest. Now that was a new message. Like, you're not gonna add more on us? You're not gonna give us even more things to do? We already feel bad enough about ourselves as it is. Jesus says, no, I will give you rest. Look, some of us today in our relationship with God, I know some of us are in a similar place as those followers were in the ancient world. We walk around carrying a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. We feel like no matter what we have done, no matter what we do, we don't measure up. And the truth is, you don't measure up. And I don't measure up. That's why Jesus came and lived a perfect life and died a sacrificial death and ultimately rose again. Because look, you don't measure up on your own. You only measure up in Christ because he measures up. Like, you don't have it together on your own, but you don't have to have it together on your own because you're in Christ. And in Christ, you are in the power and the presence of God. Look, you may not have everything worked out in your own strength and your own power, but you're not in your own strength and your own power. You're in Christ. And so the good news Jesus brings is, look, we don't have to earn it. We don't have to achieve it. We don't have to work hard to get it. We can rest in what he has already done. He says, I've come to give you rest. Rest for the weary. Rest for the weary. Some of us walk around and we got shame related to our past, shame related to our failures and our mistakes. Jesus wants to trade that weariness, that shame, that sense of guilt for forgiveness and mercy, and to give you a sense of rest spiritually. Look, that rest is already accomplished through what Jesus did for you, but you have to be willing to trade your weight for his rest. You got to trade your weariness for his rest. By faith, you got to be willing to say, God, I will give this to you and I will receive what you have for me, your rest. Here's another principle. Not only trade your weariness for God's rest, but trade your burdens for God's blessing. Trade your burdens for God's blessing. You know, this summer I was standing in the laundry room in our house, which is right off the garage. It's not really a room, it's more like a laundry hallway. And I was standing there, and all of a sudden I heard this explosion. And I actually thought my 16-year-old daughter had hit the house with her car. The entire house rocked, it moved. I'm like, oh, this is not good. I run out into the garage, and first I check the water heater, just to see if it exploded, right? Water heater's good. And I'm looking around, and I could smell something. I could see this sort of mist in the air. And then I start looking at my wife's car, and there's like black all over her car. And I look at this black everywhere, and it smells like something's burning. And I'm like, is the whole house gonna blow? What's going on? Well, it turns out that it got so hot in the summer that day that in my garage, in a plastic bin, I had a can of black Rust-Oleum spray paint, which I didn't realize was like storing a bomb in your garage when it's 190 degrees. And in the midst of the heat, it got so hot that black Rust-Oleum spray paint literally ripped the can top to bottom. It blew. And when it blew, this plastic bin was sealed, people. It blew the lid off the bin and sprayed black Rust-Oleum spray paint all over my wife's car. Now, this is not just spray paint. This is Rust-Oleum, people, right? They make this so that it doesn't come off easy, So at first I just thought, we're never gonna do it. Like, there's no way we can get this off. And this took hours and hours and hours, and my inner pastor was not showing up, and it was not easy, man. And you're like, what have I done, God? And so I'm out there in the garage, it's 190 degrees. I got the kids out, they're like, my arm's tired. I'm like, you're good, just keep working that thing. In the end, I had to go over this entire car, my wife and I, inch by inch, to get this spray paint off, trying all kinds of different chemicals to break the paint down without taking the paint off the car. I mean, it was an ordeal. And I think about us in our lives. I think a lot of us are walking around, and what's going on in our soul is kind of like that can of Rust-Oleum. We're under a lot of pressure, right? We got a lot going on in our lives. We got heavy burdens that we're carrying. The danger with that is that can of Rust-Oleum, it was perfectly fine 1 second, and then it completely blew out the next. And your whole life can blow out in a moment if you allow that pressure to build to a place that it leads you to a breaking point, and all of a sudden you do things you deeply regret, and what happens? You start spraying your guck all over everything, and it's not easy to clean up. It's not easy to clean up. So you trade your burdens for God's blessing. What's gonna happen is you're gonna just let some of that pressure off, and it's gonna feel a whole lot better. And take your cans of spray paint in from the garage. Okay. Check out what Jesus says, Matthew chapter 11, verse 29. This is good. Matthew 11, verse 29. He says, take my yoke upon you. Now, a yoke, we're going to talk about that. That was an item that they would put on an animal in the ancient world. They'd put it around an animal's neck, and then they would tie like a cart or a farming tool to the animal, and the animal would be led along by the master, would pull the yoke, and the yoke would pull the cart or the farming tool, right? And so Jesus is saying, look, take my yoke. Now, the word yoke in the ancient world actually became like a metaphor for the word surrender. So there's this whole idea when he's telling this story, his hearers would have understood. It's like, take my yoke upon you. Surrender, he's saying, ultimately to my leading, to my direction. Look, take my yoke, let me teach you. Jesus is saying, I want to teach you in your life. He says, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. How many of you want to find rest for your souls? That wouldn't be bad, right? How do you find rest for your souls? Jesus says, surrender to me, humble yourself, let me teach you, put my yoke on. Now, look at this. When we get to the red word, read it here with me. It says, for my yoke is what? Easy. Who doesn't want something easy in their life for once? You ever feel like nothing in your life is easy? Everything's hard, everything's challenging, everything's just saying, look, my yoke is easy. It's easy. He says, easy to bear. And the burden that I give you is light. The burden that I give you is light. Friends, a relationship with God is not supposed to weigh you down with an overwhelming sense of how inadequate you are and keep you there. Ultimately, it's supposed to, it'll remind you of that, and then it'll point you to God and all that he's done, and it's supposed to lift you up to walk with him. It's an easy burden to bear, he says. It's light to carry. And so you got to be willing to trade your burdens for God's blessing. So back to my pack here. I've got all kinds of things inside of here, but let's just think about life, the weights, the burdens that we carry. We have the burden of our past. A lot of us carry that burden around every day, right? Things your parents did to you, things people said to you, things your ex said to you, a divorce you went through, a breakup you went through, an experience that you had, and you carry that bitterness and that past in your life. And if you don't deal with the pain of the past, that pain is going to start working out in your life and impacting the people that you love the most. And so one of the burdens that you and I have the opportunity to trade on a daily basis with God is we can trade the burden of our past for the blessing of God's present. So you can reach in. You can take the weight of that betrayal or that divorce. You can take the weight of what that person did to you, and you can say, God, I'm going to surrender to that. It's too heavy to carry. I've been discriminated against, but I'm not going to carry that weight anymore. I've had people betray me and lie to me, but I'm not going to walk around and carry that need for revenge in my heart anymore. God, hate is too heavy of a burden to carry. And so I'm going to lay it down. And they may not deserve it, but it's not for them, right? They may not be worthy of it, but it's not about them. It's about you and your relationship with God, and you realizing this is too heavy of a weight to carry. So God, I'm gonna lay that down. I'm gonna drop the past. Here's another thing that we carry around, and that's the weight of our fears and our worries. Some of you, every day, you're carrying around this weight. Everywhere you go, it's just the weight of worry about your kids, about your future, about your finances, about the economy, about our country, about how the Dallas Cowboys are going to go forward when their running back did something very foolish and, he's out for the first 6 games, and it sounds like rightly so. There's all kinds of things to worry about every day. And we carry these worries, right? We carry them around, and they weigh us down. And it may be that it's not just the pace that we're running at that's really the problem. Again, it may be the weight that we're trying to carry at the pace that we're running at. And a lot of that weight is weight that you and I can get rid of. So today you say, look, God, I'm not going to be responsible for things you never meant for me, basically in my life, to take responsibility for. I can't control the future. I can't control the government. I can only control my little sphere of the world. And in what I can control, I'll do what I can. And then God, I give the rest of that to you. And I'm going to trust you to do what only you can do. And so you take that worry and you lay it down. Some of us, we're carrying the weight of insecurity. You feel like you're only as good as your last performance. You're only as good as your last accomplishment. And everything you do, you feel like you never ultimately measure up. It's that insecurity that, I think we're all insecure at some level. It drives all of us at some level. But part of maturity is realizing it's too heavy to keep carrying, God. I'm gonna start laying some of that down and taking on the security you give me in Christ. I'm gonna realize I'm already loved, no matter how my performance is today. I'm gonna realize I'm already forgiven, no matter how good I am today, or no matter how much I may have lost my cool today. I'm gonna realize that you love me, even if I don't accomplish one more thing. And in that sense of security, what's happening? We're trading that burden for the blessing of God. And we can start moving forward in his power. Some of us today, one of the most powerful things we can do is just take what you're worrying about, take your past, take your present, take what you're struggling with right now. Take that heavy burden and just surrender it to God. Look, you can walk out of this experience today lighter. You want to lose some weight? You may have to go to the gym. You have to change your eating habits. You just say, I'm going to let go of that bitterness today. Now, tomorrow's a new day. You have to fight that battle again tomorrow, right? But today, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let go of that fear about the bills in the future today. I'm going to let go of it. I'm going to let go of all that insecurity and stuff going on in my life today. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out lighter. You don't even need Weight Watchers for that. You're welcome, Barry. You're welcome. So trade your burdens for God's blessing. Here's one more thought for you. And that's to trade your past for God's future. Trade your past for God's future. So yesterday, one of the most important people in my life passed away. My pastor and really my mentor. The reason, as much as my dad would be the key influencer in my life, this would be a person from a ministry standpoint that was the key influencer in my life. The reason I'm in ministry today. A friend of mine named Roy Wheeler, and he was in his late 80s. He passed away. He was a tremendous person. I got his picture up here. I'll show you. That was the last time I saw him a couple years ago. And Roy was a guy that saw me in the hallway as a 17-year-old teenager. About 3 months after I'd gotten sober, surrendered my life to Christ, and was really starting the spiritual journey. I was completely insecure. I had all kinds of guilt. This brother had issues. I think I got issues now. You should have seen me then. And he walked by me in the hallway, and he said something to me nobody had ever said to me before, and actually nobody ever said after for a long time. He said, you know, you should consider becoming a pastor. And I thought, you have no idea who you're talking to. And I remember, like, I didn't become a pastor initially. I went and played in a rock band, but it was a Christian rock band, so that made it all right. And eventually he had planted a seed in my heart, and God began to water that seed. And I remember when I went to college, I met with him, and then when I got out of college that first summer, he hired me on at the church as an intern. And so I got to work as an intern for a few different summers and go away to college. That guy would show up at my college. I didn't put this together for years, but he would show up, and I would always have a long, a bill, a college bill you're trying to pay off, trying to pay down. And then I would go suddenly to the finance office, and they would tell me, your bill's been paid. And I didn't know why. It was Bible college, I was studying to be a pastor, but I didn't understand what was going on. It wasn't until several years later I started to line up a lot of the trips with Roy when he would come to the college, and I would see him and he would see some of the other students that had come out of the church. He'd go clear out our school bill. When I got out of college, he hired me on the staff at the lowest level. He did my first wedding with me, showed me how to do it. He showed my first funeral that I performed. He showed me how to do it. He married my wife and I. We've been on a mission trip together, and we were flying back in from Belarus, and I knew that he was busy and had a lot going on, and the best way to get his attention was when the plane was in the air. So I waited till the plane was in the air coming back home because I knew I could get his undivided attention. And I said, hey, there's this girl named Lori that I've been dating, and he knew her, and I said, I think I'm going to ask her to marry me. What do you think? And he said, Judd, he didn't even hesitate. He goes, you're never going to do better than that. Truth. You're never going to do better than that. But I loved him a lot. But as I thought about him yesterday and had some tears, the thing that I appreciated the most about him was he helped me see past my past. He showed me that my past did not have to define my future. He showed me how to trade my past for God's future. Look, I don't know what you've done in your past. I don't know what's gone on, what kind of mistakes you made or haven't made, what the road has been like. I just know that your past only has the power to completely define you if you give it the power to completely define you. You can let God and His Word and His Spirit and His power define your future. So no matter where you've been, your future can be better. No matter what you've been through, God can lead you into a better tomorrow. No matter how much stuff you have faced, God isn't finished working and moving in your life today. And I'll always be thankful to Him for that. He never saw me as the 17-year-old, barely sober kid in the hallway at church. He always saw me as somebody who could be used by God. And my prayer ever since yesterday has been, God, just for all of us who are followers of Jesus today, God, use us in someone else's life to help them trade their past for the future that you have for them in their life. It's a choice you and I have to make every day. I mean, I feel like we're carrying a pack, but it can be a much lighter pack than the one we're carrying. Sometimes we think the problem is we're so busy, but maybe it's not that we're busy. Maybe it's that we're trying to carry too much weight that God never intended for us to carry. So what can happen in our lives today if we said, man, I'm going to trade my weariness for God's rest. I'm going to trade my burdens for God's blessing. I'm going to trade my past for God's future. in my life. I'm going to get rid of some of that weight. Jesus says, my yoke is easy. My burden is light. And you may still have to run hard, right? Kids may still have school. You may still have homework. You may still have 2 jobs, 3 jobs. You're working 500 things coming at you. But you get rid of some of that extra weight. I think you'll find that you can be a lot more nimble and you can go a lot further, a lot faster. One of the ways we can mark the fact that God has moved in our life and that we're not defined anymore by our failures in our past is through baptism. As you look at that early church community, you see that those first followers of Jesus surrendered to Christ, began a spiritual journey, and the first thing that they did was they were baptized in water. Now, to be baptized in water just means you go underwater for a moment and you come back up. It's a very important historical moment in our spiritual journey and in our lives. Jesus walked all the way to the Jordan River to be baptized by John the Baptist. I think he did it to set the example for us and the model for us in our own lives, that all of us should take that step. And if you've never taken that step, I want to give you an opportunity today to mark the fact that, look, you are going to accept Jesus' yoke. You're going to take his burden, which is easy and light. You're going to walk in his power and surrender to him. And baptism says that's what's happened to me in my life. You go into the water for just a moment, you come back up. It's a picture of the fact that you're walking in a new life. So I'm going to throw it now to our different location pastors across our locations. They're going to talk each of our locations through next steps and through the importance of baptism for each of you. So let's give it up for them as they come out now. And at Henderson here, let me just say a couple words about what we're going to do. In a moment, we're going to have an opportunity to sing and to worship. We're going to sing a song together. I want to encourage you to stay, because those of you that have already looked at your watch, I'm letting you out of church a little early here. And here's the whole idea. If you want to be baptized, you can just step out wherever you're at and just come on down front here. And as soon as you come down, you don't need a towel, you don't need to change of clothes. We got everything for you. If you have a shirt that you're afraid people will be able to see through or anything like that, we can give you a t-shirt. We can take you out. You can change if you need to. But for many of you, we'll just do the baptism right here on the platform. So you just come down front as we sing this song together. We'll have a team of volunteers right down here. We'll get you ready on either side, and then we'll bring you up as we just continue to sing, and you're just going to start seeing people be baptized. And as you're baptized, we'll be celebrating what God's doing in your life and the way you're marking this moment spiritually as you follow him. So would all of you stand together with me? If you'd like to take that step of baptism, I'm going to encourage you, just come on down as people are coming. Let's put our hands together for them, and let's sing and worship as they follow Christ in this step of baptism.
And I was born a rebel, fighting for a dream. But when I lost the battle, the walls came down on me. Then you stole my heart and released me with a cause. Come on, Central family, let's sing this together. And out of my rebellion, a slave to tyranny, began a revolution to bring me to my knees. Found my life when I found the power to withdraw. So I let go, I let God be my vision, my strength and song. together again. I let go and I let God. This is our act of surrender. So I let go and I let God be my vision, my strength and song. Come on and sing it. Not my will, but yours be done. I'll surrender my rebel heart. I let go and I let God. So I let go and I let God be my vision, my strength and song. Not my will, but yours be done. I surrender my rebel heart. Not my will, not my will, but yours be done. I surrender my rebel heart. Isn't it pretty amazing what God has done in this room today? I love seeing people take a step of surrender to put Jesus first in their life. And we're going to continue to just play here as those continue to take steps to be baptized. And if you want to be baptized, it's not too late.
And I love seeing people take a step to be baptized. I love celebrating that. In fact, maybe you're sitting at home today watching these baptisms and thinking, I have yet to make that step of faith myself. And so I want to encourage you this week to be baptized. You know, it doesn't take going to a church. It doesn't take a baptismal. You can do it right in the comfort of your own home. You can do it in the pool or a lake or a river. Just find someone else who has made Jesus the leader and forgiver of their life to baptize you this week. Make sure to record it too. Get your iPhone out or whatever phone you have and record it and send it to us. centralfilms@centralonline.tv, because we would love to celebrate that. If you don't want to record it, that's okay too. Make sure to let us know that you took that step of faith to be baptized by going to centralonline.tv/welcome. Hey, next weekend we're continuing in our series Squad Goals. You don't want to miss it. Between now and then, remember Romans 8 says, if God is for us, who can be against us?